How's life?
Dude, life's real good. Real good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're it's busy, but it's awesome. Yeah. I like my problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, let's talk about you and your story.
Yeah.
And I said story unironically. Tell us about you. Introduce yourself to the Silicon Slopes community, my friend.
Yeah. Well, I'm Connor Snyder, co-founder and CEO of Storyy, but Utah native as well. Grew up in Mapleton.
I live in Mapleton right
Okay.
now.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah. So Ira Allen Park, that's where I grew up.
Okay.
That was the stomping grounds. We go play capture the flag, all the night games with the neighborhood kids there.
Mapleton's so nice,
Yeah,
man.
I love it. It's awesome.
So beautiful.
So then I went up to school at Utah State. Went to school up there in Logan, and then moved back down here. I'm in Bluffdale now, so I'm a Utah native through and through.
What did you go to school in?
So I studied marketing and international business because I did a LDS mission. It was Chinese speaking.
Oh, yeah. No,
So
that's useful.
I picked up a little Mandarin, so I was like, might as well make use of that Mandarin while I'm up there.
Wait, where did you go on your
I
mission?
was in California, Riverside,
Oh, I was
California.
going to say, they don't go on missions in China, do they?
No, they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was cool. So yeah, moved down to Salt Lake and then been here ever since, and like been doing digital marketing. I love marketing. So I don't know how early you were on Facebook. I was on Facebook in like 2010, as soon as they let anyone join.
Right.
And I was in high school, and so the first thing me and my friends would do would go make Facebook groups and post just random stuff in these
Yeah.
Facebook groups. And I remember my mom coming in one day, and she's like, "You got to get off the computer. You're never going to make a career just spending all your time on Facebook." And I was like, "Bet." And so once I got into school and started working in the MBA office, actually in Logan,
Really?
they had me just help out with marketing. And I was like, how do you guys advertise? How do you run ads? And they're like, oh, we do some billboards and flyers and stuff. And I was like, well, have you thought about doing digital ads, like social media ads? That's where I'm spending all my time. That's where all of your applicants are spending time. And they're like, no, we haven't. Do you want a budget and want to start running their ads? And I was like, sure. So they let me experiment and start learning Facebook ads that way. And that was actually my first time dabbling in the digital marketing world. And it was this perfect cross for me of like the way that social media can connect individuals just on a personal level, and also the way that businesses and services can reach those people. So it was just, it was for me this perfect fit. I got to do all of my fun tech stuff and combine it with marketing. And they're actually still a client of mine, like
Really?
almost 10 years later.
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool.
So yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. I love what social media like offers for people to connect. You know, it's one of these things. I feel like there was this initial romanticization of like how cool social media was, and then you have like 2016 election and Cambridge Analytica, and like all of a sudden everyone's like real sour on it, and like it's all they're just harvesting our data. And I don't know, I feel like social media, just like anything else, is a tool, right? You how you use it really is going to depend on what you get out of it. But I'm still kind of the hopeful optimist that social media is ultimately a good thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I probably lean toward it being a bad thing.
Let's hear it. No, let's hear
I
it.
probably do.
Yeah.
But I'm not like completely ingrained in that position. I could easily be convinced otherwise. But particularly for kids,
Oh, yeah.
it's like that's for sure not good for kids.
Yep.
Right? There's no reason, like when I look at my daughter who's 14, 15, and she's had Instagram since she was like 12, and you know, it's like that's not useful.
Mm-hmm.
Snapchat's not useful. Like I'm just trying. Facebook, I don't even think she has a Facebook account, but yeah, I just think like for kids' mental health, it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it's not good for kids' mental health, I also wonder like, is it good for our mental health?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we've all had days where we've spent too much time on Twitter, or, you know, all these types of things, and then you look up like, what? None of that actually matters.
Totally.
You know, like, hey, let's take it easy. And then, but there's no question that it's valuable for business
Mm-hmm.
and entrepreneurs and getting your message out, whatever that message may be, to a much larger group of people than you otherwise would have been able to.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no question on that. I just don't know, like, net if it's good. I lean towards net it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting.
No, I don't. I mean, there's a reason why when you're driving southbound on I-15, there's a billboard that says Surgeon General's warning, social media is bad for kids.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that part of the way these platforms have been built and incentivized, especially for kids, is really dangerous, right? I mean, when we're all super insecure as teenagers and constantly comparing against other people, things that we get better at as adults, but we don't. I don't think ever completely goes away for anybody.
Yeah.
But I think that it's very, very much something that needs to be moderated or inaccessible for kids. I don't disagree with that at all. And I think that even as adults, you have to be mindful, consumers of social media. And I think where people run into the problem is they get more focused on the consuming rather than the creating for it. For sure, it's important for businesses, but businesses do this same problem. Everyone's watching what their competitors doing, what their friends are doing. And I think some of the more fulfilling things is when you actually go and contribute or create in these communities. That's where you actually find people that are more similar to you than not.
Yeah.
But I agree. It's one of those things that you've got to be very mindful of how you approach it, whether you're a parent or a business. Intentionality around social media, number one thing for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not a big like government intervention guy, but it would give parents an excuse as to why you can't have these.
Says I can't.
It's like, hey, they just made it illegal, so part of that's like, hey, just grow a pair and be a good parent and just take these things away. But it's hard when everyone they go to school with is on there. Everything's happening on there. Like, I can't even imagine what my school experience would have been if Instagram was a thing.
I
can't even imagine. I don't like it was bad enough as it is. I can't imagine. And then as an adult, I've been through enough experiences on social media where people get mad at us or they're super happy about it with us, or like when we announced Elder Bednar to come speak at Silicon Slope Summit, I got legitimate death threats and phone calls, and I have these crazy voicemails, you should hear them, of people saying they want to kill me.
Oh man.
And I'm like, what? Why?
Touch grass for a second, folks.
Calm down.
Yeah.
And obviously they did. They moved on to another thing, and I haven't heard from any of those people since. We had we actually, leading up to Summit, I haven't told this story yet, there was a guy going to tech companies and screaming at people, and he kept getting arrested, and it was crazy.
Whoa.
It was wild. Yeah.
Just screaming about Elder Bednar showing up, or
I don't know. I think it was probably different each time. Or tech communities ruining Utah.
When you're showing up screaming, there's probably not a whole lot of in-game planned out there.
It's the tech community is ruining Utah. It's like, okay, well, hop in or don't. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting take, dude. Yeah, that's crazy. I really think it's sometimes people really do just need to go outside and touch grass and remember reality isn't 100% in your algorithmically generated feed. There's reality still happening out there, and touch grass, y'all. Go outside.
It's pretty weird. Anyways, so by the way, did you learn anything in school? Was that useful?
I would say overall, no. If I go back and look at the things that I took away from school that were directly related to my degree, I mean, I wouldn't say all of it was a complete waste, but I feel like the things that I learned outside my degree were much faster and much more applicable. And I'm not 100%, forget school. I think there's still careers where school is really important. It makes a lot of sense, but certainly for a marketing degree, I took a class where I was supposed to write an essay on checkout counter marketing tactics, and I've never had to go worry about magazine placement or candy placement in the checkout aisle. And I could probably extrapolate some related value after writing an essay on that, but for me it's the tactical stuff of actually doing the day-to-day. That's the real value, at least for me in business, has been. But if I was going to be a doctor, I would hope my doctor went and got a degree, right?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely I don't think it was worth it for me, but maybe for other people it's worthwhile.
I'm trying to decide too, again, as a dad, and I have an 18-year-old. He's still in high school, but I have an 18-year-old, and I'm like, do I encourage him to go to school? Like to go and get like, and like if he says like, hey, I want to be a doctor, obviously, or like,
Yeah,
hey, I
yeah,
want to
you
be a
probably should do that.
lawyer, or I want to be like an engineer, or
Yeah.
like the ones where it's obvious where you need it. But what
Yeah.
if you wanted to be like a software developer? I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah.
Or marketing. Like I got a degree in journalism. That was a waste of time. That was pointless.
Yeah.
Like really, like I should have just went on YouTube and listened to like a couple journalists
You absolutely
interviews
should've.
and game over.
Yeah. I heard someone give really good advice. I don't have kids, but this friend of mine does. And he was actually giving advice to my little brother. He was like in this like, flux period. Do I go to school? Do my own thing? And I thought his advice was really good. He said, if you don't know what you're going to do, then school might actually be a good thing.
Interesting.
Like it gives you a ground where you can kind of experiment and meet people and network, which is where I feel like a lot of the value in school is. But if someone's got a clear or a kind of clear idea about what they should do, that hopefully translates to enough like passion and initiative on their own that they just kind of go and learn it. But without that, I feel like the risk is you just kind of flounder.
Yeah.
And then you end up shutting doors rather than opening them, right? But,
yeah, I forget about the social aspect because I didn't have that. I got married at 19.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yep. Yep.
And I forgot about like, hey, there's like dances and parties and things. I didn't have it, or frats or like whatever. None of that applied to me whatsoever. I was like, I have a kid. And
Yeah, totally. No, totally. No.
I forget about the social aspect. I think that's actually a good argument.
It's a big deal
for universities.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and I think that it's so dependent on the people. You know your kids better than anybody, and I think that to have like some sort of universal standard just isn't it. I do think the biggest thing though is that where school used to be like everyone should go to school, it's always going to be the better thing. I think the shift really has been no, it really just depends on your situation, and I don't think that. I think some parents still kind of operate in that worldview of like always go to school, and I think it's really just understand your kid and where they're trying to go, and do it individually. Don't assume that school is the best thing.
Yeah, my sense is there's probably about 80% of jobs that the only thing the employer is going to care about is can you do it?
Yeah.
And do you know what you're doing?
I do not care about college degree for anyone that works for us.
Yeah.
It's never been a thing. Never. Yeah.
Yeah, if like somebody applied to Silicon Slopes and they're like, I have a Harvard MBA, and be like, I think I might actually like be like, no, I don't want. Like, I actually think that would be like detrimental to me. Like, I don't think I want, but I don't know. Like, I don't think colleges are gonna be around in 20 years. Don't you think? I think they'll be very specialized.
No, I mean
certainly none of this like humanities degrees or things like that. I can't imagine every college having all this stuff.
No, it's how old's university? Like 600 years, 700 years. I mean, it's a outdated knowledge distribution system, right?
Yeah.
And like just the amount of sheer knowledge at our fingertips. I mean, we're still catching up with, right? I mean, it's 2000-ish where everyone's like starting to use Googling as a verb, right? And now, I mean, every time I don't know something, I'm like, Chat GPT-4, like, you are now an expert, whatever, teach me everything I can know about this. And I think it just, like, it's not a good knowledge distribution system. I think the only thing that college really does now is it's like a qualifications verification system.
Yeah.
It's only those degrees where we're like, oh, I really want to make sure you're like a real doctor if you're going to cut me up. Like, okay, good, you've got the paper on the wall, But even that, I feel like over time we're going to be able to verify people in more efficient ways.
Even then, machines will be doing all of our
surgeries anyway. Totally. So yeah, we're looking at
it's pretty
paradigm.
interesting. Yeah, like AI obviously changed things, but YouTube changed things even before like AI and Chat GPT and things like that. Like YouTube is the greatest university on earth.
Totally. I mean, I think that's another like. It used to be your degree verified you knew something, and now it's almost like your follower count verifies you know something. It's part of that whole shift to creators and independent journalists and independent everything. Like ultimately, these are the gatekeepers of knowledge and actually producing results around it. And we've got ways of verifying them outside a degree. And so people do gravitate towards those creators.
Have you seen, like with Storyy and your marketing, like, have you seen this shift and been advising your clients like, hey, actually the only thing that matters is like authenticity, I imagine, and like, do you actually know the stuff? Like, how do we actually tell your story? How do you like describe this environment to your clients?
Yeah, the way I describe it to them is it's really about personal relationships. And what's funny is like personal relationships, we always think of like a two-way street, but at least online, you can have these I mean, I don't mean to sound too technical or like psychological about it, but these parasocial relationships, like I can feel like I know
Whoa,
you.
what is that?
It's where you are creating this online persona, and I'm seeing you so often that I feel like I know you. I feel like I
Yeah.
trust you. It's like me. I feel like we have a relationship, but you have no idea who I am.
Yeah.
Right? It's weird, but it's what happens, right? And so, like, if I see you enough in my feed and I hear you talk and I hear your thoughts and I hear how you express yourself, like all of a sudden I'm like, I trust Clint. Like I've never met him, but I feel like close to Clint. And part of it, I think, is this transition of we went from the friend-based social graph on Facebook to just the follower or interest-based, content that's recommended to us on TikTok and Instagram. And so we're kind of like predisposed to like look at these people as some sort of intimate connection with us. I think that shift will kind of change over time, but at least right now, I think when we see people's stuff in our feed, we assume this level of connection, that maybe isn't actually there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like reality TV was, but it's more personal than that, especially because now you can DM the influencers, right? And that just, it shifts the nature of the relationship. So what I tell clients is understand that your primary job is to get people to know, like, and trust you, right? And by sharing authentic content, you're going to build that trust. And authenticity is kind of a tired word. Know, like, and trust is kind of a tired words. And I think that for me, the way you really build those things isn't by like being too disingenuous or strategic about it. It's about just like focusing on what you know. Share what you know consistently, and you'll build credibility with the people that care about those things. So focus first on what are the topics that you want to talk about. Content pillars is something that some people call them. But pick those 3 or 4 things and then just always be talking about those things. And then people will kind of develop this expectation of when they see your content, this is what I'm going to see. Right?
Yeah. Is TikTok the most powerful platform right now for brands?
Yeah, I think it's a more nuanced thing than just what's the most powerful, right?
Yeah.
So like TikTok is 100% interest driven, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Gary Vee said this at Slope Summit where he's like, your content is the distribution. And there's nowhere where that's more true than TikTok. You talk about whatever your interest is, it's going to get shown to the people that care about that.
Right.
Instagram's kind of this weird midway thing. Like they're doing the interest-based thing for some content, but then they also have some weight in case of, social connections and social graph. Facebook's more heavy on, who do you know and your authority that you share there. The consistent thing across all of the platforms is if you talk about the things that you are interested in, whether you as an individual or you as a business, you're going to have that content recommended to the people that care about that. So I think TikTok's the number one place where interest-based content is going to be recommended aggressively. You might have a strategy where you're just trying to build social proof or you don't want to go down that heavy content creation alley. Maybe another platform makes more sense. But I think if you're really trying to build an audience, you should be focused on what are my 3 or 4 things that people really care about, create content around those consistently, and then over time, the platforms will recommend your content to people that care about those topics.
And so, like, if you're doing TikTok, are you talking like do brands and influencers have success just like filming themselves, like literally, and just like talking into this thing, or because like the TikToks that I watch are like all the comedian, like TikTok's so freaking fun. My experience on TikTok is way different than any other social media.
It's all comedians.
It's just fun.
It's
just pure fun.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is, but I don't get off of TikTok. I mean, like, and feel like, oh man, that sucked.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're like on Twitter. When I'm on Twitter, I'm like, all right, World War III is happening today.
Yeah, totally. End of the world.
Like there is a nuke coming. Everybody get to the. That's how I feel about Twitter. When I'm on Facebook, I just feel like everyone hates each other, right? Mm-hmm. And Instagram, I feel like everyone's just pretending. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could go down the list of all of the different things. But on TikTok, for whatever reason, my experience is like, it's just fun.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
It's just funny.
Yeah. I've heard of some of the product people at some of these social companies talking about how they measure it and what they're trying to do oftentimes. This was Twitter that I was reading. They would go interview customers and they would ask them, does the time you spend on the platform feel well spent? Mm-hmm. That was their measure. And most platforms, the answer is usually no. TikTok's one that consistently people are like, that was fun, that was funny. And it kind of reminds me of 5 or 6 years ago, Instagram was fun and everyone was sharing memes, right? These platforms go through their cycles, and I think TikTok's at peak fun, and we'll see how long they can ride that train.
By the way, I've never posted a TikTok. That's an interesting thing too.
You're a lurker.
It's like, like on these other platforms, I post. I like LinkedIn or Twitter and stuff like that. Like I actually like use them.
Yeah.
On TikTok, I just watch.
I think
like kind of musicians I like and comedian you know that like Pete guy, like with the long hair, like Pete guy, and
Oh yeah. I know who you're
like
talking
I'm
about.
obsessed with him. I think everything he does is so
So funny.
funny,
Yeah,
and yeah, like some of these people are just out of control, and I
totally.
don't know how else I would have seen him other than the TikTok.
So here's a question for you: when you post yourself on Instagram, does it usually photos? Is that what you usually post?
Yeah, I posted a story for the first time ever a week ago,
Okay,
and I didn't even know what that meant.
totally. So here's the thing that I've found with people. So people hate recording video. Hate recording video. I had a job once as a digital marketing manager at a mortgage company, and if you're like, for people that aren't familiar with the mortgage industry, it's kind of like real estate. Like everyone's kind of their own independent salesperson, their own book of business, and they use the mortgage company to kind of like fulfill the deals. So we had essentially a marketing agency within this mortgage company where they would like want us to support their loan officers, whatever marketing initiatives they had going on. And all these people had no idea what they were doing on social media. None. They were just like, I have no idea. In fact, I'd have people that would send me like a PDF flyer of like a loan program, and they'd be like, go post this on my Instagram for me. And I'd be like, what? Who's going to scroll in and pinch to Zoom to read your PDF terms on a FHA loan? No one cares, right? And so what I told them was like, let's change this a little bit. I'm going to give you a script. You're going to record this, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to post it for you, and then I'm going to take the list in your CRM. I'm going to boost it to that list so that the people in your database are seeing you and you're educating them around content. So this was like pre-TikTok, like 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, these people were getting deals from social media, right? And it's because we threw video in front of them because that was the most powerful way to feel like you were actually having this parasocial relationship, actually getting to know somebody. And so I think that one of the reasons you probably haven't posted on TikTok is because video, like for these LOs, is kind of intimidating. Like it feels like it's got to be this whole ordeal. I've got to go figure out what to say. I've got to record it. I've got to edit it. Like it takes all of this time to create what you're trying to create at the level of quality you want to create. And that's really how Story started, was how do we create an easy way for people to know what to say, record it, get it edited, get it posted so that you don't have to be worrying about looking dumb or sounding dumb in public, right?
So tell us how Story works.
So the way it works is we start by, you tell us what are your topic pillars. Give us your 1, 2, 3, 4 most important things you want to be talking about. Tell us about who you are. Describe you, your business, what you care about, how old you are, how many kids you have. And then we'll take that and we'll generate recommended scripts for you to create. Hooks, sections, and you can record those with our in-app teleprompter. You record those videos, our team goes and edits them, and then we'll even manage and post them for you as well. So it's about helping you know what to say and then make sure you look good saying what you're saying.
And then like you do the distribution and make sure like all the right hashtags and stuff like that.
Yep. So we'll take care of posting on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, everywhere. We'll make sure all the hashtags are right, captions are on everything. So it's kind of making sure you make great content and then manage that distribution so that way you're reaching your audience consistently. Right?
Do you work with influencers or companies more?
We work with both kind of equally. What's interesting is a lot of the companies that do work with us are taking people in their organization and saying, this is the person I want to be the face.
You have to have a face, huh? Isn't that interesting?
You have to. I mean, you can have multiple faces, and we're actually in the middle of tooling out for that. So you can like assign scripts to people in your org. But you've got to have people there. And when you don't have people there, your content quality just decreases. I mean, if I've done experiments where we've done static image ads or just motion graphic ads versus people in our team that actually go and record a video. And these aren't actors or actresses. These are just like people in our company.
Yeah.
And they just drastically outperform everything. We're just in this moment where people want to see that, actual other people on the other side, and high production actually pushes people away.
Yeah, that's interesting. The high production stuff is interesting. We saw that in podcasts too. Remember like when Serial came out, everyone's like, man, you got to be really good.
Yep.
And like really heavy editing, spending 40 hours just on the editing piece.
Yeah. Sound transitions every 5 minutes. And
I haven't listened to a podcast like that in years.
Yeah.
Like in years. It seems like now it's just like, just have a conversation. We don't, just make sure the audio quality is good and we're good.
Exactly. No, it's definitely that way. And we're not any worse for it. It seems like we're just taking a little bit of the noise out, which is nice.
Yeah. And so when companies come to Story, they're trying to get like a specific, like, by the way, like I'm we use Story at Silicon Slopes. Like I was driving down I-15, by the way, and I saw like my face on one of your billboards. I was like, this is cool. And so we love Story, everything that you've done for, like, we're so bad at social media, and then you guys came in and we actually like look really good now, which is way funny. But when companies come to you, so they're like, hey, here's what we're trying to do. Here's our content pillars. Here's all that type of stuff. And then do you tell them like, you got to be authentic? It's got to be real. You can't like how are you coaching some of these people who need to be the face?
Yeah. So like authenticity to me is such a loaded word because no one wants to be 100% transparent. And like the dirty little secret is no one wants everyone to be 100% transparent either. And that's just like a hard reality of it. And I think that especially when you're coming on for business, I think the real key here is just like, be clear on what you're coming on to talk about and be authentic to that. Like authenticity is, I remember there was this guy who was like the CEO of a company. Mm-hmm. It was probably like a year and a half ago. And he posted this post about having to lay people off and how emotionally draining it was. And he got roasted on LinkedIn, yada, yada. And to me, that was an example of bad, from a business standpoint, bad authenticity. Because if you're on there as a business, you should be really clear on what your goals and intentions are as a business on that platform. And to me, that's what's your business do? What's the problem it solves for customers? How do you celebrate those customers? How do you make them look good? And I think that he brought his authentic emotions that he was feeling at that moment. And while I applaud him being vulnerable, I also don't know if that was the right, if I'm his social media advisor, I don't know if that's the right strategic move. And so I think if you're coming on for business, recognize you're coming on for business. If you want your personal life and business life to mix 100%, you can. But I think you should be authentic within the topics you're talking about. So like good authenticity to me, if you're talking about digital marketing, is being authentic about what are the limits of digital marketing? What are the things in digital marketing that you don't really know work? Like speak the hard truths around the topics that you're supposed to be there for versus the stuff that's maybe tangential or not relevant. Because I think that authenticity is important in context. We don't want to like bring everyone into our inner circle of like most vulnerable moments.
Yeah.
Let's remember what we're there for, you know?
Yeah. It seems like, attractive people have always had advantages.
It's true. That's true.
But even more so now. Like, if you're just like an attractive person, I feel like that's your job, is to be attractive.
Totally. Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's a different business. Yeah, like, totally. Yeah, if you've got an attractive founder, it really makes a lot of stuff easy.
It's like, yeah, that's your business. You're attractive. Go make money online.
Totally. Yeah, no.
Wear products, do all this type of stuff. It's pretty weird.
Yeah, attractive privileges is definitely a thing. The rest of us just got to figure out how to make do.
It's actually kind of funny to think about. That's actually probably pretty weird too, to be like one of those people where it's like, oh, this is actually what I do. I'm just attractive.
Totally. No, there are some people that I look at their content and I'm like, there was nothing here of value, but you had a nice picture. You look great, right?
Yeah.
I do think that creates fear in some people of like, I don't have a social media face. And there's a lot of clients that we have that, look, clients, close your ears here. They're not the greatest looking people in the world. Pretty average Joe, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm one of them.
So no offense to you, Clint. But like their content's great and they get tons of engagement. And I think the reality is sometimes we like assume that people go on social media looking for only that. And they may like that and engage with that and want that. But quality information still has an audience that cares about it. And if you go on TikTok, you'll find that I think even generational shifts where, people from a Gen X or boomers live in the like magazine cover TV world where everyone's polished and pretty. Younger people live in a world where everyone and all their friends are sharing all the time. Like they didn't get this like only the really pretty people get the maximum exposure. Right. And so I think there's also going to be a generational shift where that's actually going to matter less, which I think will be a healthy thing. But it's just kind of the reality.
Why is Utah so good at social media?
Oof, that's a great question. Yeah, I don't know. I think we're really good at networking. Like, I think that one of the things that people forget about social media is it's supposed to be social. And sometimes people go treat it like a billboard. I put the content up and just like walk away. I think people in Utah are really good about engaging and keeping people like part of their community. That like it's very community focused, and I think they're mindful of that when they move it online. Like I see a lot of people in Utah who are really good about proactively engaging with the audience they have.
How's Story doing? Have you raised money? How's it? How long have you been doing this?
So I'll tell you the story. We started in 2019. I was at that mortgage company, and a coworker was like, "We should just start doing this on the side. Like, there's so many people that need help with this." So we started doing that. That was 2019. 2020 comes along, and everyone we know all of a sudden needs help doing digital marketing. Like, everyone's got to go digital now, and the people that were like about it before have to have it. There's no other way.
Mm-hmm.
So we started doing that, and we had a friend of ours who was wanting to do massive content distribution, and we weren't really doing that at the time. I was doing like paid ads and doing some lead gen stuff, and he was like, I want to post 90 pieces of content a month on 5 platforms.
Whoa, that sounds exhausting.
Yeah, and I was like, that's a lot of work. I have no idea how to charge for this. And so I just made up a number, and I was like, okay, if you pay us this, then I'll figure it out. Like, if you're willing to pay us that much, I will find a way.
Yeah.
And he's like, cool, done. And I was like shocked because I kind of figured he was going to say no.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, okay, if you'll do it, then we'll figure out a way to do it. So we did it, tooled out for it, and then all of a sudden we had people reaching out to us like, how are you doing this? We want help doing this. We want to do this amount of content. And so we just started getting tons of interest and referrals, to the point where I went to my boss, who's actually at RedX, and was like, hey, this is kind of blowing up, and I love working here, but like my side hustle kind of needs to turn to my main hustle. Like, it's getting pretty big. And he like looked at me and wanted to like ask all these questions about the business. And he was like, that's really cool. How about instead we write you a check and we jump in as a partner with you and we like really blow this up. And so that was 2021. So it's been about 2 years now. So that was our investor that's really come on in as a partner. So it kind of was like a untraditional way of raising money. But we brought that on, and it's been awesome ever since.
And you guys have built an incredible platform how long did it take to build that?
Yeah, so we've been.
I'm talking about like the
app.
technology and app stuff.
Yeah, so like the app started in, let's see, we built V1 in January 2022, and so I'd been product managing at Redx, so I knew how to work with devs. I'm not technical, but I know no code real well, and so I knew enough to kind of like duct tape together our app, and then we just finished a big rewrite with a whole new clean app and design system and all this stuff to help us scale. And yeah, the technology part's been fun because I think that, when people just send us stuff over like a Google Drive, it was painful for them, painful for us. It's like, I got to go upload all the stuff in a Google Drive and format it all right. And then I got to tell you my instructions in this email of what I want edited. And for us, it was like garbage in from the client, garbage out on the back end. So how do we create a simple way to submit the content? So you get your scripts in there, you get your teleprompter in there, you upload your projects in there, you give us your instructions. We give you some styles you can even choose from if you don't want if you want help knowing how you want your content to look. And then we're going to have a lot more stuff this year with bringing in some more of the AI tools to help make the content easier to create, but still let the individual be that authentic voice behind it. We just want to make that workflow for creating and distributing content as easy as possible.
How do you expand? How do you go take new ground if you're a company like Storyy? Like, if I were you in your shoes, I'd be like, man, this is a great time to have a company like this and an app like you have and all that type of stuff. But I'd be worried like 5 years from now, there's going to be a different trend. So how do you like protect yourself against like what's coming and without knowing?
Yeah.
Right. And go take other ground. Cause I mean, your name is Story. So really what you do is you like tell stories.
Right?
Totally.
Yes.
And so there's a million ways to do that. Not just video. Right. Is that what you're thinking? Like other verticals? Like I'm just thinking throwing this out like newsletters or, podcasts, which you do, within Story, but like, yeah, what do you think about like how are you thinking about new verticals or, what happens when video is not cool anymore?
Totally. So the first question we have to answer is like, how long is video going to be cool? Right. I think that for me, it's like video is only growing at the moment. And I'm way less worried about the video time horizon than I am on the social media trend of video time horizon. Like I think video is going to have a pretty solid place in business for a while. And part of the reason I think video is important is it's your most content-rich asset that you create in the marketing world. It's your most expensive asset. So like if I create an hour-long video and I'm going to go chop that up into social media clips, I should be able to also chop that up into a blog post, right? I should also be able to turn that into a newsletter. So for me, it's like if we can make it easy for someone to create a video and we can get that video created, it's very easy for us to create derivative supporting assets around it. And so my focus is still on creating video because it helps inform everything else you create. And then I do kind of see like I'm wary of the distribution and social media side. For me, it's like I want to make sure that we are not locked into only distributing on social media, but we're really able and capable of distributing your story authentically in more than just, TikTok, right? How do we throw that into WordPress, and how do we throw that into Squarespace? How do we throw that into your email campaign? But I do think that the easiest way to do that is start with that long form video and, chop it down.
Do you think of yourself more as like a product or an agency?
Great question. If you asked me that a year ago, I would have said we're an agency. If you ask me it now, I would say we are tech sitting on top of an agency. If you ask me that in 3 years, I think we'll probably be mostly a product.
I think you have a SaaS tool. Yeah, I think you have a software as a service product.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that for me, the way I like looking at product development is build it manual. Like all technology is a process fundamentally. So if we can build a really tight process manually, then we can go add code on top of it to automate it. And I think that everything we've done in our agency is so process driven so we can have repeatable excellence. It's not about taking those parts of the agency and actually automating them.
Yeah, that's interesting. Are you having fun?
I'm having so much fun.
That's cool.
So much fun.
That's great. How has it been like building it in Utah? Has it been like, do we have great talent here to pull in, and how big is the team?
Yeah. So we've got about 10 people that are based in the States. Then we've got, about 90 international contractors.
Oh, that's cool.
I really
you kind of have to have that these days.
You kind of have to. I mean, it definitely at the beginning when it was a side gig was all we could afford. Right. And when you're bootstrapping and you're like,
by the way, they're great. They're better than
they're so good.
Like that's what's crazy. Right?
That's what's crazy. Right. Yeah. They're so good. And, I think that the key of that, like having that team and them working at the level they're working at is actually having really great people locally. Even our team member that runs the operations was like an LDS missionary over there, which was just like this weird Utah connection that like I did not realize when we hired him. But I think for us, it's like the people here are so. I think specifically about our partners at RedX. They've been in business 20 years. They're they're an old school Utah business, bootstrapped, self-funded. We're one of the first companies that they've like invested in. And I think they are, to me, the epitome of what it means to be a great business person. And I've met so many people like this all across Utah. And I think that those people are really in it for the joy of building something impactful. Like the money's fun, the wins and successes and trophies are all fun, but the coolest thing is going and looking at, we built this cool thing and we got these awesome people along for the ride, and it impacted their lives and it impacted their growth, and now they're building things. Like the happiest I've ever been is when I've been able to create and solve a tough problem, and business is full of chances to create and solve problems, and the people here are the best people to do it with.
That's awesome, man. Well, congrats on what you've built. Thank you for talking to us. I'm sure we'll have you back soon. This was fun.
Yeah, it was way fun. Yeah, thanks for
man.
having me, man.
Yeah, likewise.